The thaw in China-US economic and trade relations, with both sides signing a truce, has brought good news for global economic development. At this critical moment, Trump is striking while the iron is hot and has put a visit to China on his agenda. However, Trump's trip to China still faces an obstacle. Rubio remains on China's sanctions list and cannot enter the country. Many people believe that Trump is likely to abandon Rubio in order to push forward with his visit to China. So, what details about Trump's visit to China are worth paying attention to? Will Rubio ultimately be kicked out of the picture? Hello everyone, I'm Quan. Welcome to Global Overview. Recently, anonymous U.S. officials revealed that after the Geneva talks, China and the U.S. signed a supplementary memorandum of understanding, and both sides have already signed it. In response, U.S. President Trump stated that China and the U.S. have signed a trade agreement. Although he did not disclose further details, the public believes that the agreement signed by China and the U.S. is this supplementary memorandum of understanding. Meanwhile, on the 27th, a spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce also confirmed that, with approval, both sides further confirmed the framework details in London. The content includes the U.S. lifting certain restrictions on China, while China will ease restrictions on rare earth exports to the U.S. Observers believe that this move removes a major obstacle in the China-U.S. trade dispute and will pave the way for both sides to reach a long-term trade agreement. Amid a global economic downturn, the signing of a truce between China and the U.S. has undoubtedly injected more certainty and stability into the world economy. This not only benefits the healthy and stable development of economic and trade relations between China and the U.S., but also meets the expectations of the world. Against this backdrop, Trump has sent out further positive signals to the outside world, making a high-profile show of his plans to visit China. On June 28, Japanese media reported that the U.S. government is currently working intensively on plans for Trump's visit to China. It is expected that in the second half of this year, Trump may lead a delegation to visit China, accompanied by dozens of CEOs from major American corporations, including Tesla's CEO Elon Musk, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang, OpenAI's Sam Altman, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, and others. This lineup not only covers America's high-end manufacturing sectors such as new energy, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence, but also includes areas like financial investment. It's fair to say the delegation is truly impressive. Some analysts believe that Trump's visit to China this time is well prepared, aiming to replicate his trip to the Middle East in May this year. If China and the U.S. can reach broad cooperation in these areas, it will undoubtedly further promote the steady and positive development of bilateral relations. As U.S. Treasury Secretary Percent said, sincere cooperation between the two countries can achieve a grand and beautiful rebalancing, while also putting global trade on a more sustainable path. Therefore, if Trump's visit to China goes ahead, it will mark a major turning point for China-U.S. relations following their economic and trade competition. However, just as Trump's visit to China is being scheduled, there are reports that U.S. Secretary of State Rubio may find himself in an awkward position because he might not be able to accompany the trip. According to tradition, before the U.S. president visits another country, the Secretary of State, who is in charge of foreign affairs, should take the lead and discuss the details with the host country. However, before Rubio became U.S. Secretary of State, he was placed on a sanctions list by China for hyping up issues related to Xinjiang and Tibet, and is banned from entering China. As a result, with no role to play, Rubio is very likely to be sidelined by Trump. In fact, after Trump appointed Rubio as Secretary of State, U.S. media had already predicted that his tenure would likely not last more than a year. The reason is that their political views are not aligned. Although Rubio advocates a tough stance on China, he is also a staunch supporter of foreign intervention, which goes against Trump's America First policy. At the time, the public was already calling Rubio a powerless mascot. In addition, as early as the previous presidential term, Trump had dismissed his first Secretary of State, Tillerson, less than 14 months into office, making him one of the shortest-serving secretaries of state in U.S. history. With this precedent, the pressure on Rubio will only increase further. However, some analysts say that whether Rubio will ultimately be ousted is still an open question. But what is certain is that if he wants to keep his position and become part of the Trump administration's inner circle, he'll have to act quickly.